So, Unforeseen Beasts in the Search for the Meaning of Our Age. We're going to go over, and I guess in this video, we're going to go over the first part of the book before we actually get into the chapters. As I said before, I think I said before, I might have forgot, but the link in the description, if you want to go to the Amazon.com page and just check out the book, the description of the book itself is in more detail. But as we go over the chapters themselves, I guess I just decided to read the book outright, and we'll discuss it as we go along. It's kind of a catch-all book that has a lot of information. It tries to go over a lot of information kind of piecemeal, but within the context of a kind of an imaginative scenario. All right, so it says, as we wrote, Unforeseen Beasts in the Search for the Meaning of Our Age. Richard Ramirez, authors, copiously illustrated and researched for a high-density reading of what is happening in today's world at the level of mind, body, and spirit. And as we go on in the series, we'll see that actually refers more to the book Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, as we get more into the book. As I think I said, scheduled up for probably around the third book, we're going to get more into that into more detail. I actually almost finished the second book, strangely enough. I mean, as far as editing, I went over with him on the actual editing for the second book as we go over it. But okay, moving on. First, we're going to go to the dedication page. Dedication. I'd like to give special thanks to the late Ted Andrews for all of his heartfelt writings and timely insights. Yeah, Ted Andrews, in particular, his book Animal Speak was very important, I guess, in a lot of the inspiration for, especially particularly for the middle chapters of this book. And that's continuing. As for this book itself, it is dedicated to our readers, as well as to all individuals who follow the 5 core values promulgated by the belted kingfisher penguin. Strangely enough, he's not even in this particular book, actually. But here, I mean, as far as a character entering into the action. And these 5 core values of his are as follows: to acknowledge beauty and efficaciousness, to search out truth, equivalence, and difference. 3. To conceive of novelties and one-off examples. 4. To find vitality and spur-of-the-moment worthwhileness. 5. To produce more values in accordance with the first 4 core values. All right, so epigraphs. That is to say, the epigraphs for initial thought that made sense at the time. Try controlling yourself. Try acting as if you're the fundamental source of your own values, independent of any transcendent ethical structure. Just see if you can do it. Try it for a week. Try it for a month. I've never met anybody that could do it, not even for a moment. Jordan B. Peterson. Let us love the winter, for it is the spring of genius. Pietro Aretino. Human, just know this. In this historical age, the closest thing to absolute universality is the search for universality itself. You should also realize that such a universality can neither be found nor verified through human introspection. This fact is, of course, what makes your historical age what it is. So then, what does all of this searching amount to? Great question. You know, that's probably why so many people are waiting for the advent of the technological singularity, so that maybe super smart machines can properly test out what men have fancied in their imaginations, in their souls, in their spirits. I mean, if such things exist. The Fifth Mystic Sage Owl. I will tell you what is brewing in your subconscious mind, human. It is nothing less than the secret visualization of the future of humanity in 2019 and beyond, of the meaning of all history, the nature of truth via metaphor, and the search for the miraculous or spiritual. In other words, a semi-poetic foray into the real possibilities of the near tomorrow, and a distinction made between what is proper to a man or a woman and what is proper to an ideal entity. And yet what you are experiencing is just like it is for all, a series of adventures and misadventures, seemingly tailor-made for someone or something else's consideration and evaluation. But ask yourself, is that really so? And if it is, then what are the consequences? Jasper Joe Jarvis, The Pure Inchoate Entity. I was composing in my thoughts the scheme and sequence of ideas, and I did not know how to begin. This sensation I could only describe in these words: the fear of drowning in the overflow of my own thoughts. George Ivanovich Gurdjieff. Introduction. A preliminary note. One time, long before the possibility of this book, I was told by several individuals that I, although creative and well-meaning with all my visions, drawings, and conjectures, still lacked one essential thing. Namely, they said, you don't have good taste. To this I replied, what is that supposed to mean in the grand scheme of things? Well, to make a long story short, I finally referred myself to the definition of taste. That is, in the sense of aesthetic judgment, the definition as provided by the 18th century philosopher Thomas Reid. He gave the following definition for taste. Quote, that power of mind by which we are capable of discerning and relishing the beauties of nature, and whatever is excellent in fine arts is called taste. Source: Thomas Reid, Essays on the Intellectual Powers of Man, essay number 8, Of Taste in General. I thought about this definition for a long while, before finally saying to myself, well, that is something to ponder about, but one should never let that kind of thing be a barrier from the expression of one's true inner existence. True inner existence. This very thought on my part then required the next logical thought, a question naturally. Under what circumstance could one confront their true inner existence? And for the longest time I thought about this question with respect to myself, but only in brief instances between real activities and fleeting moments while commuting. However, fast forwarding to the present day, where the most high density of adventures ensues, it all begins with a series of basic recognitions, but then seemingly out of nowhere something unforeseen happens. It is the month of January in the year 2019, and I can see that the world is in the midst of a technological and paradigmatic transformation. Obviously, this is happening on multiple fronts, several of which are extremely salient and pounce upon my conscious mind all at once. For starters, 1. Machine learning and genetic engineering are on the rise, and the coming perfection of and promise of the self-driving vehicle, that is to say, yet another miracle of machine learning, seems not so far away. Moreover, I specifically remember having read a certain online article where it says that 40% of current jobs could go to robots by the year 2030. Specific source: Eric Jenkins, March 24th, 2017, article titled Robots Could Steal 40% of US Jobs by the Year 2030. Anyhow, what I am getting at is that such information is more than enough raw content for the following image to conjure itself within my head. Now, I know what you're thinking. This image is a bit too pessimistic, perhaps a conceptualization of the worst case scenario. What? It's worse than that? Hyperbole to the max, you say? Possibly. But ask yourself the following question. How would it be if 40% of all current jobs were to get gobbled up by bot boys such as these, and as soon as the year 2030? I mean, that's only a little more than a decade away. Think about it, and just imagine if the image above weren't that big of a stretch. Returning back to the image. Furthermore, this technological change is only one aspect of the transforming world. To continue, we also see that, 2. Political, social, and spiritual domains in today's world are increasingly formulating concepts of truth based on arguments of instrumental value as opposed to arguments of intrinsic value. This could only be properly understood in the context of specific examples, as we shall soon see. Note to the reader: the concepts of instrumental value and intrinsic value were extensively formulated and described by the German sociologist and political economist Max Weber, who lived from the years 1864 to 1920. But okay, one might say, so what? Well, here is where our story begins. And this is what happens. From these ordinary thoughts, my heart begins to ponder and ruminate, and from these ruminations I was stirred by strange feelings to take a providential bike ride into the city of Beloit, Wisconsin, in the fullness of winter time, January. Yes, Beloit, Wisconsin, that state line city with, as far as I'm concerned, the most unforgettable of city flags. As for that unforgettably strange bike ride, I will never forget it. Freezing winter conditions, blustery wind, light precipitation, and the surreal energy of a state line Saturday evening. But, truth be told, these things were not so special, except that I experienced. Oh, I'll cut the video short and continue a little bit later.